In our reparenting series tonight and talk about pain. Because I think one of the important things that parents have to do is help their children learn tools to manage pain in a healthy way. Because every child will experience pain at some point in their life. Physical pain, emotional pain. It's part of life. The challenge to me with complex trauma is that it messes up a child's perspective on pain, and it pushes a child to develop unhealthy tools for dealing with pain that end up creating even more pain. And so part of recovery is reparenting yourself and learning how to see pain more accurately, learning healthy tools for dealing with pain, but also realizing that every time you get into pain, it's going to pull you back to old patterns. And so not to give into those old patterns. And that's very challenging because pain, if it's really intense, the pull to old patterns is really strong. I was out walking with a friend a couple of weeks ago, and somehow the topic of pain came up. And this friend of mine works with people struggling with homelessness and addiction, and many are kind of just stuck in very self-destructive places. And my friend made a comment about it's often greater pain that gets them out of that helps them reach out for help. And then he said, pain is such a good thing. And I immediately felt myself grow cautious inside. And I said, I partly agree with you that pain can be a good thing, but I also know from complex trauma that pain can be a very destructive thing. So here's how I qualified it with him. I said, if I look back at the times of the deepest growth in my life, the time where I gained the greatest insights and wisdom about life, it actually was from the times of my deepest pain. The darkest times of my life led to growth, something beautiful. But if you look at a psychopath, if you look at a narcissist, where did their psychopath and narcissist come from? From deep pain. So pain didn't bring about something beautiful with them. It brought about something ugly. It brought about a monster. So pain in one case brought about beauty, and pain in another case brought about a monster. So we have to be very careful to not just kind of say pain's a wonderful thing. It's how a person responds to pain that is the issue. And so the question becomes, what makes the difference? Whereas pain for one creates beauty, pain for another creates ugly. And I think it's complex trauma and how it shapes a person to respond to pain. Before I develop that, I want to just kind of give you a couple basics around pain. So again, it's just to say there's two types of pain. There's physical pain, but there's emotional pain, rejection, betrayal, abandonment, grief, shame, guilt, failure, sense of hopelessness. All of those are extremely painful, intense pain. What's important, I think, about emotional pain is that often it works in the subconscious. You're not even aware at a conscious level that you're experiencing pain. It can be subtle, but it's still there. It's still affecting you negatively. The second thing that I want you to see is what is the original purpose of pain? And its pain was actually designed to be a good thing. So you have to realize that the brain hates pain. The brain wants to be in a content, happy state all the time. And so if it's in pain, it can't relax until it finds a way out of the pain. It will look at every option possible to escape the pain, to resolve the pain. Therefore, it was designed to be a good thing because it was designed to be resolved. It was designed to point you to something is wrong here. Something is not healthy here. So think of a toothache. Pain motivates you, it alerts you to there's something wrong. There's a problem that needs to be fixed. And once you fix the problem, the pain goes away. If you're in an abusive relationship, you're going through a lot of pain. It's alerting you that this isn't healthy. This needs to be fixed. And if you fix it, the pain goes away. If you're in an unjust situation, you're in pain, and it's motivating you to try to fix it, to resolve it so that the pain goes away. Beyond that, there's this painful consequences that we talked about. So every time I walk outside of loving behavior, loving attitude, so I lie, I cheat, I betray, I steal, I say hurtful things, I step outside of love, the boundaries of love, there will be painful consequences. People will not trust me. People will not want to connect with me. I'll be lonely. I will feel rejected. I will go through all kinds of painful consequences. The purpose of that is not to punish. The purpose of that is to say, hey, you need to change your behavior. You need to get back inside the boundaries of loving behavior, loving relationships, then the pain will go away. So pain always has the purpose of taking us out of an unhealthy situation, pushing us, motivating us back to a healthy place so it's resolved. In other words, pain was designed to be a temporary thing. It was designed to be something that alerted you to a problem that could be fixed, that could be resolved, then the pain would stop. Now, there's one other distinction I need to make up front. So pain initially comes from unhealthy external circumstances, injustice, abusive authorities, all of that. External circumstances not healthy, I experience pain. But pain can also come from an unhealthy internal world. So keep that in mind as we move forward, because it's going to be very important to see that pain begins with an unhealthy external world, but in complex trauma, it often shifts to become main cause of pain is an unhealthy internal world. So if you look at this diagram, it's what we talked about at the beginning. You have pain at the top. So you're in danger, stress, hurt, your needs are not met. All of that causes pain. So one person ends up with growth and beauty. The other person ends up with complex trauma, a narcissist. So maladaptive behaviors, ugly stuff. What's the difference? So the first one that ends up in beauty, the child had healthy supports and healthy tools were given to the child to deal with the pain. And the other one, there were no healthy supports. There were no healthy tools given. So the child had to go to fight, flight, freeze, and they had to start shutting down parts of themselves to survive. That's what results in all of the maladaptive behaviors, which then result in creating the monster. So let me expand on that, because this is, to me, so critical for people to understand, because it's really a complex trauma thing. So let's go back to a child. Their external circumstances are painful. Let's say there's a bully at school, there's something unfair, there's some racism, there's lots of different things that are in their external environment that are hurting them. Their internal world as a child, and this is key, is innocent. It is healthy. So their natural instincts when they're in pain are healthy. Their natural instincts are to express their emotions, to cry, to reach out to somebody, to talk to somebody, to be vulnerable. All of those are very, very healthy. They don't have tools, and so that's why they need to go to somebody for help. So they go to their parents. That's their first persons they go to. So they go, and if their parents are supportive, their parents will co-regulate their emotions with them. They will nurture them, empathize, and give them tools. And what happens? The child can solve the external problem. The pain is resolved, but more than that, the child has learned, the child has grown, and the child now doesn't see that pain as a terrible thing that is to be avoided at a cost. It sees the pain, yeah, it was a bad thing, but it turned into a good thing. I grew, I learned. And so pain is seen from the perspective that it's the opportunity to learn and to grow. But let's go to the child who goes to their parents. They have all of these natural instincts. They're vulnerable, they cry, they ask for help, they rush to their parents, but their parents don't support them. In fact, their parents might be the one causing the pain. Their parents might be the one being abusive, being neglectful. Or their parents might, when they go rush, the child comes to them, their parents might shame them, punishment, tell them that they're weak, tell them that they're a failure. They make more pain. So the child is in pain, goes to their parents for support, doesn't get tools. Rather, they get a response that adds more pain to the existing pain. So what happens in the child? Well, they don't have tools to resolve the pain. Nobody is helping them resolve the pain. They're too little. So they got to go to shutting down things so they don't feel the pain. They got to go to maladaptive behaviors to try to get away from the pain, to try to fix the pain. So fight, flight, freeze, fawn becomes their way of coping. But in their mind, they're going, pain doesn't lead to anything good. Pain only leads to more pain. Pain is bad. Pain is to be avoided at a cost. If you experience pain, you need to numb it, but otherwise avoid it. Pain is a bad, bad thing. And so they develop in their brain a hyper response every time there's a hint of pain to go to fight, flight, freeze, fawn, to avoid, numb, because pain can't be resolved. Pain, nothing good comes out of. Pain is always bad. And that then leads to maladaptive behaviors, to shutting down, that down the road lead to a monster. Initially, they might have kept the child safe physically, but they are changing the character of a child to become a monster. So that might not happen until 20, 30 years later. But those early maladaptations, which were the original problem and the original source of pain, what begins to happen is 20, 30 years later, they realize that their pain is now coming from their internal unhealthy world. They now, because of all of their maladaptations, their shame, their manipulation, their dishonesty, their control, not trusting anybody, not being authentic to people, not connecting with anybody, they've created pain upon pain upon pain. They have now become dangerous to themselves. That is the shift that happens with complex trauma, is the source of your pain moves from your external world to your internal world. Now, it's important to understand that 20, 30 years later, when somebody as an adult who might be very successful is in a relationship and the relationship is falling apart, their children are angry and turning against them and not trusting them and not feeling safe with them, and they start having issues on their job, their first response is still that of a child. Something's wrong in my external world. They want to blame everybody else for their pain. Oh, if only I had a better job, if only I had a better spouse, if only I had more money, then I wouldn't be in pain. They do not want to see that their unhealthy internal world is now the cause of their pain. And so what usually happens is another 5, 10, 20 years of this ongoing pain where they blame, but the pain doesn't go away until it gets so bad they finally go, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm the cause of all of the pain in my life and I'm the one that needs to change. So usually the pain has to get worse. It has to increase. And that's what my friend was talking about, that they're trapped in a life of pain. They're blaming everybody else. It's not till the pain gets so severe that they finally break through any denial that's there and say, maybe I'm the problem. Now, let me just point out two people that have an extra difficult time doing this. So the first is a very talented person who has always been able to wiggle out of consequences. So think of a very attractive young woman who gets pulled over by the cops for speeding, and she uses her good looks, her flirting to get out of the tickets. So what she has learned is, I don't have unhealthy behavior happening here. When bad things happen, I can always get out of it. They never experience the pain of the unhealthy behavior. They're able to continue to deny that there's an issue here. Think of a person that they're always getting in trouble at work, but they can always make excuses. They can always find a way to get out of it. They can always blame somebody else and people believe them. They can hide evidence, lie successfully. So somehow they are able to look innocent. But then if they've also got all kinds of other successes in their life that people go, yeah, they're a super successful person. How could they fail so badly in this area? So they are able to wiggle out of consequences. They are able to continue to go for even longer number of years, avoiding looking accurately that my unhealthy internal world is the issue. The second person is the extreme narcissist. So what happens with an extreme narcissist? So they're so full of shame, they compensate by trying to act superior to everybody, shut down their conscience, shut down empathy. They just use people. They are attracted to people with shame who are very dependent, want to be rescued, look up to them, respect them, see them as an idol. So now you have somebody that feels very inferior, but has deep shame, connected to somebody with deep shame, but compensated by feeling superior. So that inferior person actually then becomes an enabler. So every time the narcissist is struggling, is angry, is upset, they come in and they try to fix all of their emotions for them. So the narcissist never has to take responsibility to grow up to manage their own emotions. Then if the narcissist does a bunch of actions that get them into trouble, the enabler, they come in and they take away the consequences. They pay off the cops. They hide information. They keep secrets. All so the narcissist doesn't get in trouble. So what then begins to happen is all of the enablers are experiencing more and more pain because the narcissist isn't growing up. The narcissist isn't owning their behavior and being willing to change. The narcissist is blaming everybody and he starts blaming the enablers, lashes out at the enablers. So the narcissists are experiencing more and more pain and they're complaining and complaining about all the pain they're in, and the narcissist. So the only person not experiencing pain is the narcissist. Because even though these people are still experiencing more and more pain, they still take care of the narcissist, take their consequences away because they're afraid of being abandoned by the narcissist. They still want the narcissist, hopefully, to love them. So they're experiencing increasing pain. The only person in the relationship that's not experiencing pain is the narcissist. So how do you change that? So two things have to happen before a narcissist will ever face that they are the problem. Number one, all of the enablers of their life have to stop enabling them. They have to set boundaries, walk away from the narcissist, say, if you're not willing to own your stuff and grow up, we're out, we're gone. Most aren't willing to do that. And then if some do it, the narcissist just goes finds other people with deep shame that feel inferior and starts relationships with them. So that can go on for years, but that is the key. Enablers have to stop enabling the narcissist. But then, so that then takes the narcissist too, they're the only one to blame. They can't be blaming everybody else because everybody else has walked out of their life. But then the narcissist basically starts painting themselves into a corner. They start getting into situations they can't wiggle out of, that they can't blame others for. Pain gets so intense that they have no escape, and so their only thing is to start getting honest. And that can take years. That can be a long, long process before they're ever painted in a corner. And so the deeper the narcissist, the harder, the longer it takes before they'll ever get honest and look accurately at themselves. So let me go back to complex trauma. So what I want you to see is that originally in a child, an innocent child with good instincts, when they were in pain, the pull of pain was in a good direction. It pulled them to be honest, to seek help, to express their pain, to be authentic, to be vulnerable. All of that, very, very good. In a child in a complex trauma family, they had the very same response. So they were in pain, they started crying, they went to their parents, they were authentic, they were vulnerable, and they got punished. They got shamed. They got made fun of. So the brain goes, well, that solution doesn't work. So now when I feel pain, I'm going to pull them in the opposite direction. Instead of being vulnerable, we are going to clam up. Instead of reaching out for help, we are going to isolate. We're going to go to anger. We're going to go to numbing, avoiding. So now, every time they experience pain, it pulls them in a self-destructive direction. It pulls them in a way that gives them instant relief, but it does long-term harm and creates long-term consequences. So what you begin to realize is that now, when you experience physical or emotional pain, you get that as your trigger. It sets up kind of patterns in three areas. It pulls you in a negative direction in your emotions, in your thinking, and in your behavior. So just think of it, and you can do this for yourself. When you experience pain, what's the pull you feel emotionally? So you're feeling pain, but for many people, they immediately go to also experiencing anger. Others go immediately when they're feeling pain to just feeling hopeless. It's almost like they're that hopeless child again that can't resolve it. And then they go to just feeling like a helpless victim. Or they get so overwhelmed that they go, life is not worth living, give up. Then they go to self-pity. Poor me, my life sucks, nothing works, nobody's there for me. Then they go to depression. Then they go to panic, anxiety, fear. Then they just feel so stressed out, and some go to shame. It's my fault. I'm not good enough. I'm such a burden to others. I feel totally useless. So what you see is that pain pulled you in an emotional direction that has a pattern for most people, but it's all negative emotions. It takes you to a darker and darker place. Then what happens in your thought life? Well, for many people, they experience pain. They go in a pattern in their thought life. They go to worst case scenario, or they try to minimize it. Oh, it's not that bad. It's a form of denial. Or they start to feel sorry for themselves, or they start to blame others, or they get really hard on themselves that they need to buck up. They're such a failure. Or they get very negative about everything. They find fault with everything. Or they immediately start to go to scheming and how can I manipulate my way out of this? Or they go to thoughts of what's the point? Let's quit. Let's give up. So again, pain. Now the pull in your thought life is negative thoughts. The pull is thoughts that are going to lead you to a darker place. Then what's the pull in your actions? So they're all versions of fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. So some go to kind of fight. I'm going to lash out. I'm in pain. I'm going to cause somebody else pain. I want to hurt somebody. Or I'm going to just blame everybody and be mad at everybody. Or others go to flight. I am going to isolate. I'm going to withdraw from people. Or they go to freeze. I'm going to numb. I'm going to avoid everything. I'm going to distract myself, dissociate from the present somehow, or I'm going to medicate. Somehow food, drugs, sex, alcohol, but I got to medicate these emotions. Others, they immediately, in pain, they go and they just seek validation. They seek attention. pain was the only time people wanted to connect with them. People gave them validation. Or pain was the way they used to manipulate people to do what they want. So that's where they go, into manipulative behaviors. So what do you have again? Pain now pulls you in unhealthy behaviors. It pulls you to behaviors that actually are like dominoes. They lead to a darker and darker place. So that's the legacy of complex trauma in pain. And that is so sad because the child had no way to resolve it, nobody to support them. They were trying to get through as best they could, and without realizing it, created a whole set of patterns in their thinking, their emotions, and their behavior that actually took them to more pain, to a darker place. So what do you do to change all of that, to reparent yourself? So let me give you just a few things briefly. So it's so important to be aware of your own patterns when you're in pain. Where do your emotions go? Where do your thoughts go? Where do your behaviors go? Because the earlier you can catch yourself when you fall into those patterns and stop yourself from continuing from the dominoes falling, the sooner you can turn things around. So instead of going to the old patterns, which is the old tools, you can stop it and switch to what would be a healthy tool. The second thing that I want you to see is when you're in pain, your limbic brain is active, but you want to get to your cortex. But the problem is your limbic brain is still in pain. So what you're realizing is that you're in your limbic brain and your cortex at the same time. And so you have to make sure the cortex is in the driver's seat. You have to allow your limbic brain to be in pain. You can't just magically fix it. You got to tolerate it, but make sure that you're still operating out of your cortex. That's a challenge, but it is such an important skill to learn. So another way to say that is, at the same time, you're tolerating the pain, but looking for a solution to the pain. So you're saying, there's no magic fix here. I got to kind of tolerate this, but doesn't mean I stop looking for a healthy solution, which hopefully will come. Next thing, when you're in pain, make sure you continue to meet your 12 needs. Make sure you continue to do healthy self-care, because what will happen is if you get so distracted with the pain and you start running off trying to just escape the pain, you will stop meeting your 12 needs, which will actually make the pain worse. So just make sure you're doing stuff to take care of yourself. Next, what is the initial instinct that a child has when they're in pain? I need help. I need to talk to somebody. I need to connect. Do that. Find a friend that's safe, that's not going to judge you, that's not going to just want to fix you right away, that will make space for you to be in pain, support you, empathize with you, let you talk about it. That is so important. Next thing is, when your limbic brain is in pain, look to also do activities that provide positive emotions to your limbic brain, that try to balance out some of the pain, that enable you to kind of cope better with the pain because you got some positives balancing it out. So look for activities that feed the soul, that give you healthy pleasure. Also, realize that sometimes you can take a healthy break from your pain. Yes, you got this pain. Yes, you need to deal with this pain. You need to sit in this pain, but you can take little breaks from it. You can have a healthy escape, a healthy distraction. And sometimes that's important for our own stability and sanity. Finally, you may need to talk to a therapist. You may need to talk to a medical professional and see if you're missing something that maybe they can see that will help you resolve this pain, provide a solution to it. Don't be afraid to do that. Now, I want to end today on what are some of the good purposes of pain in recovery. So what you're doing is, the child coming out of complex trauma sees all pain as bad. And so as soon as they experience pain, they just want to avoid it. what you're beginning to go is there's some pain that, yes, I need to resolve, I need to get rid of. I can resolve it and I can grow from it. But there's some other pain that I might not be able to resolve right away, but that doesn't make it bad. Actually, some good stuff is going to come out of it in the long run. So let me just look at kind of a new perspective on pain that's part of our reparenting process. So number one, if I'm in pain, I need to go, okay, is it my external circumstances? Is that the source of my pain? So you think of people in slavery, people in racism, discrimination, sexual discrimination for women, created very painful environments. You look at people where there's abuse in a marriage, or you look at children who are acting out, and it's, because no parents are connecting with them. And so they're just angry, they're hurt. And so if there's pain happening, go, is this my external environment? Can I fix this? Is there something that needs to change in my external environment? But then, is this pain happening because of my internal environment? And that's often what it is. So let me give you some examples. Many people, when they come into recovery, they grow very consistently for a while. But then all of a sudden they seem to level out. They seem to get stuck. They just start going through the motions of recovery, but their heart's not in it like it was before. They're kind of in this state of inertia or in a rut. They're just coasting. So they're not growing anymore. They've just kind of leveled out. And you go, what needs to happen to get them growing again? Often it's pain. And what to me is important is this. Often what happens when a person starts to level out, they think they're just coasting. They just think they're staying at the same level. When really they tend to start sliding back to old behaviors, to their old default settings without even realizing it. And before they know it, they're in trouble. And so what I have found for many, many people is when they are coasting, often something painful, could be in their external world, could be from their internal world, but something painful all of a sudden gets their attention and gets them to go, I need to get back into wholehearted recovery again. I need to get back into taking care of my 12 needs and doing the things necessary to heal and grow. There's another piece that's connected to this, but it goes like this. Most people that I deal with, and I've had times in my own life where you find yourself in a behavior that you know is unhealthy, but you can't stop yourself. You can't find the willpower to say, enough, no more. So think of a person who's in an unhealthy relationship. They know it's unhealthy. They know it's not meeting their needs, but they just can't bring themselves to leave. Or think of the person who comes home every night from work and they know they need to do some recovery stuff. They need to connect with people, but they just get in the habit of vegging in front of the TV and they just can't break the habit. Or the person that just starts drinking too much and they know they are, but they just can't stop themselves. So what do you do with that person? They just can't muster up the willpower to make a decision to change. Usually they need some extra pain to get them to go, okay, I got to change. It pushes them. It gives them that extra motivation and nudge to go back into letting go of unhealthy things and to behavior that is healthy. I remember once going to a chiropractor. I had a very, very tight muscle in my back that was just spasming constantly and causing me great pain. And I went to the chiropractor, and what he did was stuck his elbow into the kind of the end of the muscle and put tremendous pressure on it, and it increased the pain greatly. It was just excruciating. Almost felt like you're going to black out. And then all of a sudden the muscle relaxed. And I went, what happened there? And he said, sometimes when a muscle is spasming and it can't let go, it needs extra pain to overwhelm it, and then it lets go. And that, to me, is a metaphor for what many of us go through when we're in a situation where it's causing us pain, but we can't let go. Sometimes extra pain we can finally let go. There's another time in my life when pain has been ongoing pain that I can't resolve, has been a positive thing. So what happens for much pain is you can just very quickly see a resolution to the problem that fixes the pain. But sometimes you get into situations that are causing pain and you can't find a quick resolution. It's very frustrating. All of the options that you consider don't work. So what happens? It forces your brain to think deeper. It forces your brain to move out of its little box of normal solutions to look at different perspectives, to search for other solutions. It pushes you to grow. And so if my life just stayed smooth, relatively easy, I could stay in this very superficial box of solutions. Pain that can't be resolved with those easy solutions has forced me to think deeper, to grow, to gain wisdom I would never have gained otherwise. So it's like you get to a point where your solutions you have that you've tried are not working, and there's a desperation that drives you to look outside of your normal box. And that's why many people come to our YouTube channel. Every solution they've tried is falling apart, and they're so desperate, they start looking and they come across our channel. That's what I'm talking about. There's another piece connected to this. So often when my life is easy, I begin to just assume that all the tools I'm using, my approach to life must be good. But really, I could be living off of lies. I could have a very faulty foundation to my life, but that will never be exposed because everything is going smoothly. Everything is going easy. So it's like a person that builds their house on sand. Everything looks fantastic about the house until a major storm comes and it exposes the faulty foundation. Or a ship that is built very cheaply. The structure is not good. It does not have the really good quality stuff that a ship needs as far as ballast and keel and structure. As long as the seas are smooth, it looks like a wonderful ship. It could be $1 million ship and it looks like it's the best ship in the world. It's when the first storm comes. It exposes the weaknesses of the ship. And so that's what happened in my life. When life was going smoothly for years and my existing skills, my existing tools, my existing belief system seemed to be handling every situation. I thought I had built a solid, wonderful life. It looked really good. Then my health fell apart, and then everything started falling apart. And what did that pain do? It revealed that my foundation was not as solid as I thought. It revealed that I had built my life on some lies. I had built my life with very superficial tools. It pushed me to challenge the foundation. It pushed me to deconstruct everything about my life until I got to a solid foundation, until I got to a solid structure for my life, until I got to tools that handled all the exigencies of life. That pain pushed me to get a solid foundation. I remember in my teens, I grew up in a part of Canada where they grew tobacco. And I had a friend who was a tobacco grower, and I was spending a day with him one day, and it was in August and it was really hot, and we had had rain for months. Some of the farmers were irrigating, and I said to him, why aren't you irrigating? He said, because this right now is the critical time of not irrigating in his mind, because what is happening is it's forcing the tobacco to grow its roots deeper, to push them deeper and deeper. And what is happening with that, it's looking for water, but it's finding tar and nicotine as well. And that's what creates the really good tobacco. So that drought period from the intense heat of the summer was forcing it to drive its roots even deeper. Then after I was sick and I started back to work, I worked on a tree farm. where they grew spruce trees. So when the spruce trees were about a year old, the farmer would take a U-shaped blade and put it behind the tractor and go down the row of spruce trees. And I went, "What are you doing?" And he said, I'm chopping off all the roots of the spruce trees. And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because right now the roots are just growing very shallow and there's not a whole lot of roots. That tree will not survive transplant very well. I need to cut off the roots, and that will cause the tree to be in pain and to panic, and it will create even more roots and it will drive them down deeper. And that will create a strong, healthy tree." So that's what pain can do. It forces us to drive roots down deeper and to get a healthier, stronger life. There's another purpose in pain. So what I realize from some pain is it's not my external world. It's something unhealthy in my internal world. So yes, I got some anger issues here. I got some fear issues here. I got some shame issues here. I got some abandonment issues here. I got some negativity. That's the reason for this pain that I'm experiencing. And it exposes the areas of my character that are unhealthy. And it causes me to come to a point where I go, am I willing to change, to refine my character, to do the hard work necessary to get healthy? And the pain basically says, yes, I'll do the hard work because I don't want to stay where I am. It's too painful and getting increasingly painful to stay here. I need to change. I love the metaphor, the illustration of refining metal. So metal goes into the fire, into the crucible, and under extreme heat, what begins to happen is all the impurities within the metal separate from the metal and rise to the surface. And then they skim off the impurities, and it creates more pure gold, silver, etc. But it's the heat, it's the pain that exposes the impurities, that separates them, and that enables you to get rid of them. And that's what pain does. Now, there's one other thing that, to me, has a positive effect from pain. What I found when I went through my really, really dark, painful time in my life is it led me to kind of a core existential type question, which was, most of my life I had thought I was a very loving person. I thought I gave, and that's who I was. What I didn't realize is that often I was a loving person because it was easy. I was a loving person because I got validated for it. It was a loving person because I got some positive benefits from it. When I was in deep pain, the last thing I felt like was being loving. I wanted to isolate, to be selfish, to be angry, to lash out, to not care for anybody else. I wanted to become narcissistic. And what that pain forced me to do was confront a core issue. Am I going to be loving only when it's convenient? Or am I going to be loving whether it's convenient or not? Am I going to be loving when I'm in pain and not in pain, or only when I'm not in pain? Because if I'm only loving when I'm not in pain, then I'm not a truly loving person. I'm only loving when it's convenient to me. And it really forced a refining of character. That if I want my life to be all about love, then I have to choose to be loving even when I'm in pain, when it goes against everything that I want to do. So, two illustrations again from nature that were so helpful for me was the oyster. So the oyster gets this irritant, a piece of sand that gets inside its shell. It causes pain. What does the oyster do? It secretes a lubricant to deal with it, and it becomes a pearl. So the pain, instead of destroying the oyster, it allows it to make it even better, to make it more beautiful. And then to me, there's the classic illustration of coal and diamonds. So coal becomes a diamond. But how does coal become a diamond? How does its character get refined to be something so beautiful when it's so rough initially? Extreme heat and pressure over a period of time. That then refines the coal to become a diamond. And so to me, pain, if we choose to allow it to change your character, has this refining process to create more beautiful, healthy character as we go along. So that's pain. Again, I just hope that it helps you get a new perspective on pain, begin to understand the pull of pain in your life and how you need to reparent yourself to change that, so that pain becomes a path of growth for you, not something just to be avoided or medicated. Thanks again for being here. Have a great weekend.